winter intensive is like going on an amazing adventure. So it's like, it would be, to me, it's kind of the equivalent of deciding to hike the Pacific Coast Trail or doing the Camino de Santiago.
Right.
You really don't know what's going to happen. So the work that I do in the world all revolves around the issue of mass incarceration, the dramatic rise in the prison population in the United States since the 70s. The United States is the world leader in incarceration rates by a lot. I started to help coordinate a college program inside San Quentin, which in the US is a very infamous prison because it's one of the first ones that was built. And then I've done some policy work around people coming out of prison and reintegrating into society. And then I've also, I just recently finished a graduate degree. So I did 35 life history interviews with men who committed violent crimes, served long prison sentences, and who ultimately accessed higher education either while they were incarcerated or afterwards. And now I'm doing community organizing and public education to try to start really intervening in the issue and reducing the prison population and thinking about transformative approaches to crime and violence and trauma. I found out about process work in general and the winter intensive through a good friend of mine. Maybe a week after the intensive was over, we did some gardening and at her house, and I really recall this moment where I asked her, do you have an idea of what you're gonna do next with this? And she was like, yes, I'm gonna do the master's program and I'm gonna work on the relationship between Japan and Korea and the Japanese occupation of Korea. And I was like, oh, like it was so clear and big and meaningful. So that kind of planted a seed. I ended up finishing my dissertation later that year and choosing not to pursue a traditional path, and that opened up a window. One is some of the basic premise about just the dimensions of human experience. So this idea that there's a consensus reality, which is what we all agree on, that there's a dreamland where our dreams and fantasies exist, where roles switch, where the normal rules of social and physical life don't necessarily apply, and then there's an essence level, and that we can move between those different levels of experience, and that there's a lot within the dreamland experience and the essence level experience that can add a lot of value to our experience of a consensus reality. That to me is just like a really holistic approach that kind of is very affirming of that doesn't marginalize experiences that in consensus reality, at least in our current culture, are often marginalized. It's very affirming of those. And then the other piece that I think is super critical and important is the process work approach to rank and privilege and power. And the fact that there is a really comprehensive framework for thinking about power and thinking about social rank and different kinds of rank and privilege that is integral to the whole philosophy. If there's anything else that I would want to share, I think it's some things that have been coming up around this idea of marginalization. And so thinking about the way that my experience in the winter intensive really affirmed and highlighted for me my inner diversity and has allowed me to really feel more open to all of the different voices and identities and roles that I experience within myself. Experiences that are often kind of made taboo or dismissed or kind of pushed away in our more kind of traditional environments are granted a very high level of value within this framework and among the community of people that practice process work. There's something, it doesn't just try to be inclusive of all of the marginalized experience, it actually treats marginalized experience as of central importance. Maybe one of the most valuable and really healing and affirming and worthwhile contributions that it makes, and something that I have really taken away. Anyone that is working in a therapeutic or healing profession, I think it provides a really powerful alternative perspective and philosophy. I think for anyone doing social justice work, it's a very valuable methodology and set of tools and worldview. For anyone that's interested in just deepening their own personal exploration and learning more about themselves.